Hello, welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Thank you for joining us this week. We're going to talk about what's going on in the world of craft beer, and there's always something going on. There's always a little bit of beer drama and some other shenanigans. All good fun stuff. I am Brian Hewitt, and Tim is on assignment this week. He's researching stuff and things, both of them, and is going to compile a expansive paper on stuff and things. When
very important.
We'll hear about it when he gets back, but yeah, so with me is the one and only, thank goodness, Mike Nate. Mike Nate, how are you doing today?
More on the microphone today, so I'm having a good time. Did a little traveling recently for work, and so I'm just really excited to be here and tip back a glass with you, and happy to be here. Brian, how about you? How are you doing today?
Doing good. Was that recently? Was that this week or a previous week that you went down to like Texas or something like that?
That was a couple weeks ago. I typically transit from Atlanta to Charlotte and back on the same day about once a week at this point for work. And so I've done that. I did that twice in a 7-day period recently. And so hopefully we can spread that frequency out by a little bit.
Do you have any stops you typically make for beer on the way back and forth from Charlotte? Any kind of gotta always stop at your select package? I know if I was doing something often enough, I'd always stop at, whatever the best package store was on the way. But
as much as I would like to devote the time for that, typically I leave early enough that I get to Charlotte at 8 in the morning. And so I'm leaving Atlanta about 3:45 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And then my goal is to make it back to Atlanta before evening rush hour, like the afternoon rush hour traffic starts. And so I'm really just turning and burning. I've got a couple of favorite stops along the way, like rest stops and gas stations and whatnot, but I just don't give myself enough time to pop into a package store.
Just got that favorite truck stop bathroom that you always got to visit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Through.
Third stall on the right.
That's right.
At the Loves. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. The Loves. Yeah. Do they have any Buc-ee's on the way that direction? Have they done that yet?
There's no Buc-ee's. I just basically shoot up 85. So I go, Atlanta all the way to the state line and then the 105 miles across South Carolina. There's no Buc-ee's over there. In Georgia, the Buc-ee's are either on 75, flanking the city, or down on 95 over near Savannah.
That makes sense. Yeah, we've got them. It's only a matter of time before they put some over there. That's a ripe corridor for Buc-ee's, but it's got to be far enough out of town where they don't have a lot of competition, and they need 10 square miles for parking because those places are so crazy. But
I think they're opening 2 or 3 more in Georgia, so you'll be able to get your Buc-ee's fix no matter what major interstate you're driving on.
It's so weird with those people. It's a love-hate thing. I kind of enjoy them. They're an incredible spectacle, and honestly, the barbecue, the sandwiches want to come through, or the beef jerky, it's fine. I browse through all of the crazy over the top like Buc-ee's paraphernalia and all that, and I do have a travel coffee mug from Buc-ee's that I enjoy using, and I don't know if I like it ironically or if I just like it. I don't know. It's fun. So yeah. But.
Yeah. Party Nate and I went to a concert last week in Birmingham and passed the Buc-ee's that is about 20 miles outside of the city. And it was nice. It's the typical large crowd, a lot of people there, but it was a good time. And of course, I had to check out the beer selection. It was okay. There wasn't anything that was really exciting to look at, but there was definitely plenty of exciting people watching to do.
Yeah, I will say that I also look when I go into a Buc-ee's, but because I always wind up going into one in the state, it's always just like the stuff I could get anywhere. The only time it's really worth like grabbing something out of there is where I'm going somewhere where I know when I get there, the beer selection will be even worse. And believe it or not, it's possible. So yeah. Anyway, but so you know what? Let's get into the beers of the week. By the way, I'm fine. I think we covered that. I don't know if I got into it, but it's another week. I'm here. I'm drinking beer. But let's move on to the beers of the week. That's the important business. What are you drinking?
Yeah, there you go. So, earlier in the year, we had talked about me doing zebra stripes all year, and this is a white stripe week, so I'm not drinking this week. But in my glass, I've got beer adjacent beverages. I've got from Hopwater their iced tea and lemonade. I'm a big sucker for an Arnold Palmer, which is just black tea and lemonade, and it's really nice to have. And so when I saw this on the shelf, I needed to try it. What's cool about it it is a hop water beverage. So they've got Citra, Amarillo, Mosaic, and Azaka hops in it. It's good. I do enjoy it, but you know how we've talked over the years about the NA spirits and how they kind of miss out on some of the body that
Yeah.
the alcoholic spirits have. This is a very similar thing in that sense of I get the black tea, I get the lemonade, you get a little bit of the hops too, but it's a seltzer essentially. And so I'm getting an Arnold Palmer seltzer, which it tastes good, but I'm missing out on the body. So I do enjoy it. If you like those flavors and want to have something that is 0 calories, worth trying. On deck from Liars, this is another brand that we have talked about over the years on the show. Got their Amalfi Spritz, which is their take on an Aperol Spritz. So it's that non-alcoholic. It's got a little bit of Italian bitter notes in it and a little bit of gin and citrus. And I've had it before. It's really tasty. And then this is a new to me beverage. This is from Naked Life, and it's their mojito. So that is what I have on deck. On the deck of the on the deck. So
On the deck of the on the deck. Is the Amalfi Spritz, is that a pre-made one, or is that one where you've made your own? Because I know in the studio we had the big bottles of the non-alcoholic things, and their Aperol, their non-alcoholic Aperol was really good and mixed in with just like seltzer water. It was like, I was impressed. I'm like, I would just drink this. And for a little while I did. And I think I still have that one of those old bottles that honestly, maybe I should pour it out because it's not alcoholic and I don't know if it's safe anymore. But anyway, really good. And Liars, Lyre. I think that's how I spell it, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's worth checking out if you're into the non-alcoholic stuff. So
and
cool.
And to answer your question, yes, it is pre-canned non-alcoholic cocktails. So the NAs have their own canned cocktails as well.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I think I had their Liars. There was Dark and Stormy, and I thought that was pretty good. It does, with the non-alcoholic stuff, you can tell that they're compensating for that alcoholic burn with the capsaicin. You could actually feel the different heats. Like this is chili pepper heat kind of in the back of your throat. And I'm like, okay, I see what they're going for here. And it's like, it's kind of close, but I know the difference,
Mm-hmm.
So, but not bad. I'm like, if you're not drinking, I mean, it's a good way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I highly recommend that brand. Brian, what do you have in your glass this week?
Yes. I should talk about my beer as well. Yes, for my pregame, I got into Pabst Blue Ribbon Grillo's Pickles Edition, which is a pickle lager, and I like it a lot. I know that there's been differing opinions about it. I've seen other people checking into it online and saying, I guess this is accurate. I guess this is what it's billed to be, but I don't know how to rate it, and I don't know what I think about it. I think it's great. I'm like, if you enjoy drinking pickle juice, and I have to not drink too much of it because it's probably not really good for you. I think it's great, and it's a really good expression of pickle in it without being, in my opinion, over the top. It's easy. These have been easy for me to drink, and I'm actually thinking I might pick up another because when I drink one, I'm like, oh, that's great. I love that. I'm like, I could have another, in fact. So I might be in the minority on this in just my love of this, but I've had other pickle beers that were a little too much, a little too edgy. This works for me. I think it's just light enough that it works. So anyway, I will quit glazing that and move on to what I'm drinking currently. I'm into Other Half's Green City, which is a New England IPA, and it's loaded with oats for a creamy body that's not too sweet. And they've achieved that. There is a creaminess to it, and it is not an overly cloyingly sweet, juicy New England IPA. So it's really good. I enjoy that. I've had it before. I always buy this when I see it drop, and fortunately, it started dropping here in Georgia. So love that. And on deck, I've got Hop Butcher collaboration with RAR Brewing. It's called Impossible Bottle, and it's a New England double IPA with Peacherine, Citra, New Zealand Cascade, Rawaka, Simcoe Hyper Boost, and I think there's even something else in there. What was it called? Fresh Frozen Cryo or something like that? I don't even know what that is, but there is so much stuff in here. I think that's why they call it Impossible Bottle. So I'm looking forward to that. I've actually had it already. It's good. So yeah, it's going to be.
Is Peacherine just Peach and Nectarine's baby?
Well, no. Well, I think it's a name of a hop, but I assume named. I assume it's named for that concept of peach and nectarine together, because I'm assuming that the flavors you get out of it are similar. I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure it's a hop.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Well, Brian, you got a Pabst beer in your lineup this week. Tell us why Pabst is also in the news.
You know, it's weird that I didn't even think about that. I meant to do the Gorilla's pickle beer last week, and then, yeah, I guess it works out. Heck, I still have a Godzilla Pabst that's in my fridge too. So, anyway, yes, Pabst is calling it quits on Schlitz, the beer that made Milwaukee famous. After 177 years of production, or a little less if you count Prohibition, Pabst is discontinuing the brand for the foreseeable future. Schlitz, that is. The official announcement says they are putting it on hiatus, so this may not be permanent. The discontinuation is being blamed on increases in costs of shipping and storing of, quote, certain products. So it's an interesting way of stating it, because in commentary I've seen online, people have pointed out that they've used almost exactly the same words for other discontinuations. So it's a pretty unceremonious dumping of Schlitz, of a historic brand. So very interesting. I should point out at this point that it is Schlitz Premium Lager that is on the chopping block. So if you're a fan of Schlitz malt liquor, you've got nothing to worry about. That isn't going anywhere, which I actually find really funny. Based on some of the memes I've seen already online, I think a lot of people don't realize that Schlitz Premium Lager is a thing. They only think of Schlitz being the malt liquor, and to be fair, it kind of would probably be included in that group of people. But anyway, Schlitz Premium Lager is getting an unexpected send-off, though. Kirby Nelson, the brewmaster from Wisconsin Brewing Company, reached out to Pabst to brew one final farewell batch, and that final send-off batch isn't going to taste like the version on the shelves today. They're brewing it based on on the brewhouse logs from 1948 to replicate the beer and what it tasted like during its post-World War II golden era. It's a pretty limited release, though, and it won't be going into distribution as far as I can tell, or if it is, it's going to be very limited distribution for the area. So if you're in the area, you can pre-order the final batch starting today, the day the show drops. If you get some, do let us know how it is. Is it better? Is it worse? I'm like, what's it like? And Mo Magnate, did you ever drink Schlitz? Have you ever had that? I know you kind of ran a beer department, so maybe you encountered it at some point.
So to be honest with you, I would be caught up with the memory of it. I didn't realize until looking over this article that Schlitz had a premium lager. I thought it was going to be the Schlitz malt liquor. I've had it once. Didn't want to go back to it, the malt liquor, that is. And it's just one of those things. You're in your 20s, the money's not going as far as you would like it to, and you still want to get yourself a nice little bevy. And I was going through a phase of malt liquors, and most of them I only had once because they're not great.
I was thinking the same thing. I went through when I was living in an apartment with some buddies just out of college. We did 40s nights where we would go to the convenience store. We'd grab a couple of 40s, and we were looking for anything. And we weren't flush with cash, but we had a little bit of money. We were in the Northwest, and there was inexpensive craft beer to be had there. We didn't call it craft beer at the time, but it was basically that. But we knew what we were doing. It was a theme thing. So we did have Schlitz. The thing is I also think that I had Schlitz, but I think I had the malt liquor and not the premium lager that they're discontinuing. So I was going to say that I knew the beer, but wasn't a big supporter, hadn't been drinking it. So, but I don't even think that's true. I don't know if I've ever actually had just the lager, or if it was only just the malt liquor. But anyway, despite the fact that I wasn't a big proponent of it, wasn't drinking it all the time, I've been looking around. I saw the article. I don't know. It might have actually been late last week, and I looked around over the weekend trying to see if I could find a little Schlitz. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna drink it. I'm gonna give it a proper send off, because I respect the brand that's been around for 177 years. There's a reason for that. They were good. They may still be good. I don't know if I've with the current lager, but yeah, give it a shot. But have you looked around? If you find some, will you get it, or will you just kind of like, yeah, it's a shame, and just move on with your life?
To be honest with you, I would absolutely get it. I don't think I'm going to take time out of my day to go looking for it. But if I go to a liquor store, I'll look around for it. It's one of those things though, like again, until recently I never would have left the cooler door that had 40s and the tall boys, the 25-ounce cans. So I'd have to start digging. But I mean, shoot, the last time I was at the package store, I bought a 12-pack of Coors Banquet and Miller High Life. So I definitely would enjoy a classic American premium lager if I could get my hands on it.
We're going back to a point where we respect these things, where the macros don't seem. There's a point in time where people would have been just completely outraged and embarrassed to be drinking those, and now we're back to the days of lager appreciations, where some of these big beers have been around for a long time. They've been around for a long time because they make a good lager. So Some of them no, but some of them yes. So yeah. It is a shame to see them go. It does seem unceremonious. I'm just glad somebody's stepping in to like honor them with a special brew at the end of a heck of a run. So
well, and that's the thing that struck me the most out of this article is Pabst was willing to quietly retire this brand, and it wasn't until Milwaukee Brewing Company realized what was actually happening that they started raising some fuss about it. And I'm glad that they did, because the people that like this brand, that all of a sudden we're going to be like, oh, well, this thing's always been on the shelf for generations and now it's no longer there, which be left wondering. And so it's cool and it's also cool that they're going to double down, and the final send off is going to be that 1948 recipe. That would be really cool, is to be able to try a modern day brewed example and then the last batch of that historical brewed example and see how the tastes differ side by side.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking, like, this guy he's going over there from Wisconsin Brewing Company. He's the brewer there. And I'm like, he's getting access to this and they're going to stop brewing the beer. Is he going to like mentally remember what went into that and say, hey, we're going to make our own version of this and sell it out of our tap room? And you don't have to call it Schlitz. You can call it Schlippery or something like that. Whatever, something, and just tell people like this is based off a vintage recipe of Schlitz from back at the golden era. That would be cool, and that's something that craft beer excels at. I love that stuff. Reclaiming history or something like that, or reviving it. So, yeah, who knows? They're not saying they're not selling off the brand and all that. It's hiatus, so maybe this will be back. Who knows? And when looking for news for this show, I got to tell you, there were pages and pages and pages of articles, headlines about this. I don't think I've ever seen so many headlines about anything beer related. It was very difficult to get through. So I think they're going to find out that there's going to be a lot of outcry about this. I don't know if it's going to lead to them bringing it back and then there being enough sales to support the brand, but there's a lot of outcry about this. So more so than Anchor, I think.
Yeah. Well, talking about changes in the brewing world, with you being from the Northwest, Brian, have you ever heard of Cloudburst Brewing?
I have, in fact, and I'm well aware of them by reputation. I don't know that I've ever had one of their beers, but I know that they did really well. I want to say they did really well in a competition, or we heard a stat about how much they were growing or how they were killing it out there. And I tried very hard to get them on the show years back when we were still on the radio. We had a station in is it Tacoma? Right. I think is what it was. And so that might have been the reason we were told about them. Like we should get them because people in that area would love to hear about it. I reached out. I talked to people there. I tried really hard. Unfortunately, never did get anybody on there. But I'm aware of them. I've been kind of like casually following their progress. But since you mentioned that, and the mergers and acquisitions portion of the show is so strong, we have to bring this up. This week we have learned that Seattle's iconic hop-heavy Cloudburst Brewing is being acquired by their friends at Bale Brewing Company, and I believe that's in Yakima. But if that matters to people listening, that's Washington people will know that. Anyway, I don't know the Seattle beer scene that well, but Kendall Jones from Washington Beer Blog calls this a feel-good acquisition that's unusually wholesome and positive, and those are mostly his words, me paraphrasing them a little bit. The owners are actual friends, and this was like a handshake deal, and it may have even been made around the kitchen table while they were drinking beers together, so I guess they hang out a lot and go skiing and things like that. So if you're a fan of Cloudburst, don't worry. For the immediate future, not much will change. Cloudburst will still brew in Seattle and still do self-distribution to accounts around the city, and they're also keeping their existing crew. Apparently, not much is changing in that regard. As for why this is happening, according to Cloudburst's founder, Steve Luke, it's been a decade of all gas and no brakes, and he's facing rising costs, shrinking margins, and slowing beer demand, which is kind of what everybody's facing right now for the most part. And that meant some big decisions needed to be made. So at the same time with all this, his wife got a job in New Zealand. So he decided it was time to get out and go to New Zealand, which is what you do in a situation like that. You just go off to New Zealand. Of course, New Zealand is well known for hops, and they do have their own craft beer scene. So the chances are pretty good he won't be out of the industry for long. There's no announcement as to what he'll be doing when he gets there. I think it's just the point is he's going there. So yeah, it looks like Cloudburst is in good hands for now, though. So if you're a fan of theirs, be happy. I think it's definitely better than it could be, with people getting out of breweries these days. So the sales are a little hard sometimes,
Yeah. It's, we talk all the time on the show about how tough it is to be a brewer, a brewery owner in this industry. But it's nice when stories like this come out where guys wanting to get out, he wants to be able to catch his breath for a moment. And instead of being sold off to a outside the country investor, or even an outside of your state investor, the fact that it's going to somebody who's well received within your own zip code is really nice to hear, because I think they're going to be more involved or more invested in the success and keeping it local.
Yeah, I think so. And I was just noticing when I'm reading through this, like a lot of the wording is very similar to what we've seen in terms of buyouts recently, because we've got a lot of cherished brands that are getting sold, bought out because of various, financial issues and other things like that. And I do like that the people buying them out have some respect for them, and they're promising to cherish the legacy and keep them going is close to like Trumer Pills and other things like that. Keep them operating the same way that they have been. Keep people, served the same way. Keep the beer the same. So I think there is definitely a preservation mode that people have gone into now, because there have been breweries that have just shut and they're gone. I'm like, and then there's other stuff we've seen historically. Something gets bought out and they get gutted, and there's almost nothing left to the brand other than their name is technically on a can of beer that is produced in a completely different state, and it still gets distro in your state, but I don't, a lot of times maybe it's similar, but there's hardly anything left that's what you originally liked about the beer. So yes, I like seeing that people are like, let's preserve this. Let's keep what's good about this, and work out the business angle to make this a more survivable thing, and just get past the rough time we have going right now with beer. So yeah, it's nice to see. It is nice to see.
And the fact that message is coming out of the buyer's mouth and not the seller's mouth, that's the most critical part of all of this. And change is hard, change is scary. And so when brewery ownership changes hands, as a loyal customer of theirs, I'm sure you're a little more than concerned about what's the future is going to look like. But it sounds like for Cloudburst, it's in safe hands.
Yeah, I think so. All right,
Brian, in this next story, it's all about a thing about beer that I know nothing about. Can you tell us what is wrong about Gruit?
Gruit, yeah. I thought with your home. I thought with your home brewing, I assume I'm saying it right. You know what? It's European, so it's possible I'm saying it wrong too. But I thought with you having done all the home brewing you've done, you would have been familiar with Gruits, if you
I don't know.
want to call it that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So all right. So you wouldn't be falling into it, but the point is we're basically all wrong in what we think about Gruits, and I couldn't tell you the last time I actually had a Gruit, but it does come up in conversations a fair amount when you're talking with homebrewers, except Mike Nate. He doesn't know anything about it, but generally speaking, when people talk about Gruit, Gruit, they are talking about the historical beers that were brewed before people started using hops. That's what they mean. And usually there's some reference to bog myrtle or mugwort or some other exotic Harry Potter sounding herbs that, all that kind of thing. But according to Lars Marius Garschel, the author of Lars' blog, big fan of his, did a lot of stuff on quake yeast and things like that. We've got it all wrong about Gruits. The story doesn't start with a creative brewer that's come up with these herbs to make an alcoholic beverage better, but with an emperor who is looking for a cash grab. Around the year 800, Charlemagne decreed that you couldn't brew commercial beer whenever you wanted to anymore. Brewing beyond your personal needs became a royal privilege, and to get that privilege, you had to pay the king to do it. And this is where Gruit came in. It wasn't a style of beer like people think. It was a mandatory ingredient that functioned as a tax on brewers. Local lords forced brewers by law to use a specific amount of Gruit in every batch of beer they made. And you could not make your own Gruits, or you couldn't buy it from a neighbor or, a friend or anything like that. You had to buy it from a seller authorized by the local lord or by the king or whatever. We've heard it said that hops replaced Gruit, implying that Gruit came first, but that's actually backwards. There's historical evidence of hops being thrown into beer cauldrons around 3 centuries before this whole Gruit taxation system was created. So Gruit wasn't even a thing, and people were already using hops. The Gruit ingredient mix changed from one place to another and over time. It was typically thought to include bog myrtle or wild rosemary and combined with laurel berries, resin, laserwort. Juniper's been mentioned. Like I said, mugwort sometimes too. But here's the kicker. Some Gruits actually contained hops. So the growing popularity of hop beer in the areas that brewed with Gruit, which is a kind of a smallish area of Europe, did eventually, result in a switch to a more direct method of taxation and a decline of the Gruit-based beers. And I think the big reason why Gruit faded out and they went to a more direct tax system is hops preserve beer better, so it lasts longer. And I think that in some cases, based on the little bit of Gruits I've had, hops taste better, but I'm very biased because I've had a lot more hop beers than I have had like well-made Gruits. So yeah, that's the thing. So I was expecting to have a whole conversation with you, Mo, Mike, and Nate about Gruit. Like,
and honestly, I'm fascinated with it because as a home brewer in the modern era, I don't even understand how you could consider beer a beer without hops. And then considering the whole point of the article is that we had it all wrong and hops had actually been involved in Gruit before even this era, it was just even 3 centuries before this era. Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint, but yeah, this was a learning article for me and not something that we could bounce ideas off of.
Well, it's good. I'm glad we can learn. I think that I learned about Gruit from Dogfish Head, and I'm trying to think of what beer it was. It was maybe the first Gruits, or I just did a quick search for Dogfish Head Gruits, and they apparently had a Gruit. I don't know. It's
they had a beer that was like had honey in it, and I remember the packaging was like purple and honeycomb.
Oh, and yeah,
I remember that was
the Golden Touch or Midas's Golden Touch or something like that.
Yes, and I think that was like supposed to be a nod to a very old historical beer recipe.
Yeah, I know that the joke we had, a running joke we had, is like technically a Gruit or something like that. That came up a lot. That's part of the reason we reference it, and so that may have actually been technically a Gruit by what we understood to be the understanding of Gruit, but we were totally wrong about it. So, but I think yes, I think that's what I was thinking about. Midas Touch, I think is what it was called. It had honey, had herbs in it. I don't think it had hops, and it was kind of a mind opener. So that came. When did I see that? Like early 2010s when I first saw that and I tried it out. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I didn't realize beer could be like this, and it was a historic thing. So it was back in the fun exploratory days of craft beer.
So you talking about how this comes up a lot with homebrewers, when you and Tim were homebrewing, did you guys make your own Gruit?
I don't think so. I don't think we ever did. I think we did some stuff like what was the thing? Tim would know if he was here. I think it was like fermented rye bread, and I think it had honey, or just like you soak the rye bread. I think you put a raisin in it. I forget what that was called. And like, there's no hops in it. So in a way, it's kind of would be what we thought of as being a Gruit, but it also didn't have the herbal quality to it. It's definitely kvass, I think. It's not a Gruit.
That's what it's called. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a Gruit, but it was like, it was something adjacent to it. So we made that at one point in time. An actual Gruit, I don't think we did, because we were trying to perfect getting an IPA, because we struggled with that for a bit. Like our buddy Joe, who was a brewer at Scofflaw, his very first IPA was amazing and won him awards. We couldn't, for the life of us, make a decent IPA for quite a while. Make a killer saison. We did finally absolutely nail one, but it took a minute. And it was just we had to mess around with water chemistry, I think, a little bit to finally get it to work out. But yeah, I think it's just something interesting about what we were doing that was different than what he was doing. And some people just have a knack, just have a touch, they just know what they're doing and just immediately fall into it. So yeah.
We tried to. I was still the brewer for my homebrew group, and early on I would do the shortcut of like, I'm going to mask some of these flavors with some extra hop additions. But my big thing that I really try to perfect and got it pretty dialed in towards the end there. I don't brew as often as I used to, but we were making Schwartz beer. And so for about a year, I made nothing but lager and lager variations. But in that 1 year, I think I brewed like 5 different batches of Schwartz beer.
Schwartz beer is respectable. That's a noble cause to nail that. Like nailing the saison is a good thing. Nailing a good lager, but nailing a good Schwartz beer, man, I would love it. I mean, it's got me thinking again about doing some like a little bit of home brewing on the side, but I really don't have time or space for that right now. But man, I miss that so much. While I'm thinking about home brewing and Gruits, I did a quick Google looking at BJCP to see if there was a category that they had for Gruits, and so I could call them out and laugh, but they don't. They have a historic beer category, and that's smart, because the reality is even with us being wrong about what Gruit is, we still didn't know exactly what it was meant to be. And even the people who thought it was like the beer before hops, even they disagreed on the recipe. So there's no really, established recipe for a Gruit. Just kind of it was thought of as just being an herbed, alcoholic beverage, basically an herb beer. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, Brian, before we get further along the show, let's send some love to our sponsor, Truck and Tap.
That is a good idea. All right. So summer, it's coming. It may be a month away, but we've already started hitting those summertime temperatures here in the Atlanta metro. I don't know if we've actually crossed the 90-degree line yet, but we're getting dangerously close based upon what I've heard. I asked AI if we hit 90 degrees yet this week, and you know how that goes. It told me, yeah, we totally did, and then it couldn't tell me which day of the week we actually hit it. So I have no idea if we really did, and AI doesn't really either. Anyway, the ambiguously hot weather, this is the point, has gotten me in the mood for sipping some easy drinking beers in a shady spot on the patio at Truck and Tap. Probably right next to the food truck, so I don't have to go too far to grab a bite to eat, because you don't want to overexert yourself in this heat. And what beers shall I be drinking? Well, let's take a look at my Truck and Tap beers picks for the week and find out. At Truck and Tap Woodstock, I'm going with House Cat from Rheingeist. House Cat is a good old American Pilsner with floral and citrus aromas, subtle bready notes, and a crisp finish. It's a beer that was designed for summertime drinking, and it would be foolish not to get one. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to recommend that you do as well. At the Duluth location, I'm getting Variant's Cloud Forager, which is a New England Pale Ale. I know what you're thinking. Hold on, that's a hazy juice bomb, right? Hear me out. It's a pale ale. It's coming in at just 5%, and it's all about intense citrus and resinous flavors from citra hops. And it's also described as being crisp on Untappd. So I haven't had this one before, but it sounds like it'll be very refreshing, and I trust Variant. They make good beer, so I'm sure it's going to be amazing. At Truck and Tap Alpharetta, my pick is Bright Minds from Six Bridges. I've been on a bit of a watermelon kick lately. I had a watermelon cocktail last weekend, and I enjoyed the heck out of the watermelon flavor. It was very ripe. It was very fresh. It's got me thinking about watermelon a lot. So it's kind of hard to pass up a light guava watermelon wheat ale, which is what this is. And Six Bridges does good things with fruited beers, especially their fruited sours. And finally, at the Lawrenceville location, I'm going with Active Low from Halfway Crooks on the side pull tap. Active Low is a great German Pilsner made from both German malts and hops and conditioned for an extended period of time, an extended stay on, a in barrel somewhere. I was going to say on wood, but like I'm thinking of a previous beer. So this conditioned for an extra long time. So yeah, I lost track of where I was at. But I've had Active Low a number of times, and you can't go wrong with this one when you're drinking on the patio. It's a great beer. I've had it. I've actually tried this out in their beer garden in the summer at Halfway Crooks. So I know this works. And there you have my beer picks for the week. Get out there and have a beer or two. As always, if you'd like to see the full tap list before stopping by, take a look at truckandtap.com. The taps do change quickly. You never know what great new beer might go on and which of these might disappear. And if you'd like to see what food trucks are serving and what events are happening, like trivia, karaoke, cocktail specials, they'll have them, live music, etc., you can find that at truckandtap.com. Everything you need to know can be found at truckandtap.com. So check that out. And thank you to Truck and Tap for your support.
Thank you, Truck and Tap. Well, Brian, we have the story a little bit ago about this brewery in Norfolk, Virginia that is recently in the headlines. Let us know what's going on with them.
Yeah. So they've been in the headlines. I don't know. I don't remember if we talked about this when it happened, but I definitely was following it because it's a little bit of juicy drama. But about a year ago, a brewery called Armed Forces Brewing closed up shop in Norfolk, Virginia. They had only been open for about a year, I guess, but in that time, they apparently made a bunch of enemies, including people on the city council. And when you make enemies with city council, that's just never going to go well. But so the CEO was widely quoted as saying that they were shut down by, quote, a local woke mob. And again, that's gonna bait people. It was mildly interesting beer drama at the time, but not really something I paid too much attention to. It was like a localized thing. Well, this week, there's a new hazy and juicy chapter to this beer drama. People are getting sued. So, yes, Armed Forces Brewing has filed a civil lawsuit against craft beer professionals founder Andrew Copeland, his business, and his wife, along with several other Virginia residents. The claim is the defendants were involved in organized tortious interference campaign against the brewery. So tortious interference, in case you don't know, and I only barely knew what this was, is when a third party wrongfully and intentionally disrupts somebody's business relationships. So the brewery also alleges defamation, intimidation, harassment, and conspiracy designed to destroy the company commercially. Most of this seems to be tied to claims about the brewery being anti-LGBT and also saying that they were like deeply in debt to vendors and things like that. So the brewery in this lawsuit, they deny all of these claims. They say no, none of this is true. They claim that all of this has caused them to lose partnerships, or did cause them when they were open to lose partnerships, vendor agreements that kept customers away from their events, and cost them some important beer taps that they'd had for a very long time. So, Armed Forces Brewing is seeking $50 million in damages, so they're not messing around. And this is the point in the story where I say I'm not a lawyer. I don't have any firsthand knowledge about any of the things here I'm talking about. I'm just telling you what I've read about this on Brewbound, and most of it has been on Brewbound. Got a little bit of from VinePair too, a little flavor commentary there too, but it's gotten ugly. Apparently there were like town hall type of things, and yeah, it's somehow parts of this oozed out into like news outlets like Fox News and other things too. Like it went all over the place. So this drama like spilled over. So it went from being mild regional drama to being much larger drama and for higher stakes. So I do not envy anybody involved in this. It sounds like a horrendous mess to me. But
yeah, there's a whole lot of honestly just really tough situations going on.
Oh yeah,
in that umbrella of a situation, and not a lawyer. And this lawsuit that's happening, even if they succeed and they get their $50 million, like you're not going to reopen your brewery, like especially if you've made an enemy on the local city council for Norfolk, Virginia. And I'm from Yorktown, not from, but I used to live in Yorktown, Virginia, and Norfolk's just one town over. And in 1999, when we moved down to Georgia, Norfolk was decently sized. There's a big naval yard over there and a shipbuilding yard, but I assume it's gotten bigger. But even still, bad news travels fast. And if you're making enemies and you're, for a naval pun, if you're making a large wake in the waters, even if they were to succeed, I just don't see them sticking around for much longer in their local township. But that's a pretty crazy story right there.
It is. It's wild, and I'm excited about the drama. I don't want anybody to be actually judged against and owed $50 million. That seems like a ruinous thing. I don't know who's got that kind of money just laying around, especially not in the group of people being sued here. Were they to get $50 million and actually collect it, which I think is the point, I don't know that that's even possible. I don't know who all they're suing, so maybe it is. They might have some people with deep pockets. It's possible they could set up shop, take that money, set up shop in a different town somewhere, like not far away. Maybe they'll find another town that's more congenial to their point of view about things and all things military. I mean, I guess that's possible. If they were to actually get the money. I don't know if a case like this, and again, not a lawyer, I don't know if a case like this ever actually pays out. I'm like, people might get a judgment against them, but I mean, if they don't have the $50 million, how do you get that? I mean, I don't think we send people to debtor's prison anymore. So I think it's just a matter of they declare bankruptcy, like, hey, yeah, we're insolvent. We can't do this. We're out. So you can't get blood from a stone, basically, you know?
Yeah, it's really rough. Hopefully both parties can walk away somewhat whole, and yeah, well,
yeah,
not on this continent, but over in Europe, beer apparently is outpacing wine sales in France.
Indeed, yeah. Some good news for beer. Like it maybe comes at the expense of another beverage, but I'm okay with that. It's good news for beer. I knew times were tough for wine right now, but I didn't realize it was this bad. For the first time in modern history, the French are officially drinking more beer than wine, believe it or not. This is largely driven by younger folks reacting to the growing cost of living. It's getting expensive, and wine is expensive. If you look at the raw volume, it's an incredibly tight race between beer and wine, and beer did take the crown, but just barely. So last year, the French drank 22 million hectoliters of wine, and I believe that translates to about 581 million gallons. And they drank 22.1, so 22 versus 22.1 million hectoliters of beer. So 0.1 more of beer. Hooray, beer. These figures reflect a 70-year low for wine consumption, and it dropped 3.2% compared to the previous year as well. Despite the really negative news for wine, France is still the single largest consumer of wine in all of Europe, so they still drink a lot of wine. So why is this happening? Well, industry experts point to a couple of factors: difficult economic conditions in mature wine markets, and also a generational disconnect in terms of how younger people choose to drink. I saw commentary in one of the articles about this where, because of the move towards a more technical work environment, even in Europe and France, people are no longer doing the quote unquote 3-hour lunches that they used to do. People don't sit down and have a proper meal midday in France anymore, which I guess was typical. So when you're not doing that, you are not opening up the bottle of wine with your lunch. That right there cuts your wine consumption in half, probably, if you're drinking a bottle of wine at lunch with some friends and then a bottle of wine at dinner with some friends. Like that's a big cutback. So part of it's lifestyle change, but yeah, and it's not just France either. On a global scale, the overall wine consumption has dropped to a 60-year low. Yeah, and in some of the the factors that come into play with this are also the tariffs. Like they are actually hurting the wine sales because they're making things more expensive. But on the other hand, another interesting tidbit is that consumption of non-alcoholic beer in France also jumped 12% last year. So they're on board with non-alcoholic beverages too. Mon Dieu, indeed. They consumed 600,000 liters of non-alcoholic beer in just last July and August alone. So they drank a lot of non-alcoholic beer. Crazy, man. So it's weird is only recently I started messing around with wine a little bit again. I like wine too. I just almost never drink it. Do you drink wine at all, Mo Magnate?
I do. So I am an equal opportunity consumer when it comes to the three beverage groups of alcohol. I definitely favor beer and spirits over wine, but given a certain kind of meal, I will gladly open up a bottle. And I've got a few friends that are more wine drinkers than anything else, and so going for a dinner party with them, it's pretty common that we'll have like three or four bottles for the four of us in a sitting.
Nice.
So yeah, I do enjoy wine. My favorites are the drier stuff, so like dry red, dry white, over sweet any day of the week. But yeah, wine's nice. And it's again, it's not something that I normally grab. And then I've got a friend way back when that said you never go to bed with an unfinished bottle of wine. So unfortunately, that has taken root in my brain, and if I'm opening it, I'm finishing it that night.
That's right. If you open that bottle of Electric Reindeer, you are finishing it that night.
That is correct.
I think that was way back in my younger days. I think it's Cost Plus World Market had some of my most reckless drinking came from the cheapest wine that we got there. And I think it was Electric Reindeer was one of them. I think it was basically what is the like a rosé or something like that? Like it was basically garbage, honestly. We enjoyed it because we knew we enjoyed it ironically, like you would as a child. So yes, or as a young person. We weren't children. We were of age. Come on. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think it's time for us to move on to one more thing. We've got this is an interesting season of advertising, marketing, collaborations. I don't know what you want to call it. And I've got a bit of a roundup of a ton of stuff I've been seeing recently going on with the macro beers and the crazy products, the crazy collaborations they're coming out with. I don't think any single one of these deserves the focus of an entire story, really, but all of them together, mildly amusing. So here we go. So it seems to be a hot season for these oddball collaborations. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is the Miller Lite MVP Match Ball, which is the most interesting and the most perplexing, which basically is an oversized soccer ball that you shove 12 cans of beer into from various angles. And I've got a picture in the notes. You see that, well, Mike, Nate?
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that's something? That really is something. So yeah, from different angles, like you know the what are those, hexagons or something like that? So
Pentagons.
Is a pentagon. Oh yeah, I guess that would be right. They have a hole in there for the beer, so you slide the beer into. Why would you slide 12 beers into a soccer ball? That part is completely unclear to me. As far as I can tell, the ball is not a cooler and will almost certainly cause the beers to explode due to being jostled about. It's like foam over. So, but I guess it's a conversation piece. You could pass it around and shake up everyone's beer, and they grab a beer out of it. It's weird. It's weird to me. But if you'd like one, check out the Miller website. They're going for $19.75. So, yeah, you can get this conversation piece for not too much money. So at least there's that. Speaking of Miller, the Miller Lite Pringles are back. This year has two beer themed collaborations with Pringles. They have the beer cheeseburger, which combines the flavors of beer cheese with the juicy burger. Sounds good. They've got a beer braised steak as well, and that features the char grilled steak flavor with notes of umami and black pepper, balanced by the hop forward malted character inspired by Miller Lite, which I think is a safe way of saying that there's no actual beer in this. So they've found flavors that are reminiscent of Miller Lite. Oh, probably those Miller Lite drops that they sold years back. You drop it into another beer and turn it into Miller Lite. So unfortunately, there's no beer can chicken this year. That was a collaboration last year. There was also like a beer brat one. I forget. There were like three of them, and I can't remember what all of them were. One of them was pretty good. The other two were so-so. But you'll start seeing these in stores probably around sometime in June. So keep an eye out for that. Coors Light is doing something similar. They're collaborating with Cheez-Its on beer cheese-flavored crackers. So beer cheese apparently is a hot flavor this year. There's no word on when these will become available, but apparently they appeared briefly on Target's website. A lot of people reported it, got really excited, and then it disappeared immediately. And I don't know if anybody actually bought these, but I think it revealed that they were planning to do this. So I don't Coors Light Cheez-Its. I guess I'll try that. Beer cheese? I mean, yeah. But, all right. So Molson Coors also has just introduced the Just Bring the Beer luggage collection, which is fun. Just in time for the summer travel season. They're calling it the world's first line of insulated travel gear designed to transport your favorite chilled brews to the beach, backyard, and anywhere in between. So it's basically a cooler that looks like luggage. It has the handle. It's got the four wheels at the base of it to turn all the different directions, and it's all of the stuff. So there's also a variety of other smaller bags because there's a whole lineup. It's a whole theme of stuff. So there's a bag for the beach. I think there's like a fanny pack because, of course, there is. And there's one that's has a built-in hanger in case you wanted to hang your beer in the closet like it's a suit for some reason. So, again, I don't know what the heck is going on with this. I think you buy the individual pieces of this separately, but the actual piece of luggage that looks like a formal piece of luggage is like $100, and they all go down in price from there. So, yeah, that covers what I've seen. So, my Mike Nate, how many of these are you planning to buy?
So last year I managed to find the Miller Lite Pringles, and I think the beer and chicken was my favorite of last year's release. So I would try this year's release. The other ones, the one commenter in here said that the Super Ball looks like a landmine.
It does.
I don't really want to have or like one of those floating like sea mines or whatever. I don't want to have a ball that I can shove 12 cans in different angles. It doesn't even, like you said, it doesn't even keep them cool. So it's just going to explode. So that's no. Miller has done some really cool marketing items. Like, didn't they do a gingerbread house? And they did. Oh no, it was a
dive bar, a gingerbread dive bar.
Yeah, that's right.
That might be the most legendary thing ever. Yeah.
And then they had the record album had like dive bar ambiance, and like the center bit had some beer in it or something like that.
I think you're right.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
But of this lineup, the only two that I would get would be the Pringles, and then if it's affordable enough, maybe the Molson Coors fanny pack beer luggage collection. It's just getting after it on the pool, and I've got like my couple of cans and my fanny pack that I can freeze and just have a good time.
I want the one that can hang up like it's a suit in the in my hotel room for no reason at all. Again, no refrigeration. It's just like it's got sleeves you can put beer in, so you can hang it in the closet. Where I guess maybe some places have refrigerated closets. I don't know, or maybe you can hang it in the fridge. I don't know.
If you've heard of refrigerated closets, you might be one of one on that one.
Yeah. That's a 5%er type of thing.
Yeah, correct. Besides the closet beer suits, any of the other marketing materials that you'd be willing to
I'm going to look around for the Pringles. I'll if I see those, if I see the Cheez-Its, I'll probably buy either one of those just to try them out and see how they are, just because they're beer themed and it's something I can mention on the show. They're fun. The Pringles were cool because some of them were actually pretty good and some of them weren't. And a few of them I really can taste what they've done here. So it is impressive what basically, honestly, laboratories can reproduce like flavor wise, because that's really what this is. They're not really doing beer stuff, but it is fun to see like they can make, this chip taste like beer can chicken or a pepperoni pizza or, any number of things, kimchi, I've had kimchi stuff. I'm like, is it really kimchi on there? Probably not. It's probably interesting, quote unquote natural flavorings, which debatable what that natural means, but yeah. But well, I think that about wraps it up. Do you have anything else that we need to talk about, Mo Mike Nate, before we call it a day?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So, yeah, like I said, that wraps it up for the show this week. Thank you for hanging out with us. We hope you had a good time. If you did have a good time, we hope you'll support us by telling a friend about the show and subscribe if you haven't already. Definitely should do that. And if you really, really enjoy what we're doing here, we'd appreciate your support on Patreon. Just head over to patreon.com/beerguys. There are all kinds of fun perks, including access to our Discord server where we talk about beer and all kinds of other things all week long. Pringles, that sort of thing. Grillo's pickles. I'm getting all this mixed up, but and we do have an after party after each show for our Patreon supporters. We have them come on. We have some beers. We talk shop with them. So we'll be doing that again this evening. So Yes, with that said, we hope you have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.